Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Murdoch, and this is Webinars with Wendy. We are continuing our series of webinars because you, our audience, has asked for it. And so it's really great. I know I took a break, but we're back. We're going to have 3 this week. We have Mary, and then we have the woman from the right horse. And then I'll be talking about safari on Friday with Caitlin McGarvey, who came with me on safari. So I'm going to have tons of photographs of lion and cheetah and leopard. So if you miss it live, just be sure to watch it afterward. And that one, I do not recommend to do just audio. Speaking of audio, you can find all of the audio versions of these webinars on Wendy's Winnies on iTunes. And I believe we are now on Amazon. And I think that includes Audible. So just look for Wendy's Winnies in your podcast and you can listen to these webinars rather than trying to watch, have the YouTube thing playing. It's much safer. Today, my guest is Elena. Sorry. It was like, not Ellen, Mary Elena Moran. And she and I reconnected when we were at the Retired Racehorse Project in Lexington. Mary had done a Surefoot workshop with me. Is it a year ago now?
Yes.
Yes.
The first one out of the pandemic.
Yes. And we reconnected, and she was standing at my booth describing Surefoot to somebody. I looked at her, I was like, why haven't you finished your case study so that you are officially a practitioner? And by the way, come on my webinars, because she's working with Surefoot with rescue horses. And I just got so fascinated. I know I needed to do a webinar. So welcome, Mary. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. And I am just finishing up my last case study. So I should be all done by this week. Yes.
Awesome.
So a little bit about me. My passion is rescue transformations. And so I'll just kind of give you a little bit of my background. I've been training horses for about 18 years, several different disciplines, from Western performance to hunter jumper, dressage, side saddle. And so I have, kind of a large lens to operate from in terms of horses and what they've been through and what they might need and where they can go, and maybe matching them with the right people and the right job for a great future for them and rescue after they've been rescued. So I really love natural horsemanship and liberty work. And then since 2013, I've been a mounted police officer and a mounted police instructor. And that has really shaped a lot of my horsemanship path since then. And positive reinforcement is something that, I use in my training. I'm excited about. I do clinics where I'll do clinics for confidence building and connection building and creating a police horse bravery with your performance horse. And so I kind of try to sprinkle some of my experiences in the police horse world into performance horses, so I can give those tools to other people so they can have the most brave and confident jumper or dressage horse or Western horse, whatever they love to do. I do evaluation. Are
you currently a police officer?
Yes.
And can I ask where?
In the state of New York.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
that's a lot
without giving too many details.
And
but yeah,
how many mounted police officers there are in your unit?
18.
So there's 18, and they're out on patrol. How much?
We do primarily community outreach, community events, and we do ceremonies. So we do not do enforcement. We don't do crowd control. I mean, we do train as if we would, but we do not do that. We use our own horses. And so that's what's unique about my situation is I use my own horse in police work. So I have the ability to bring a horse in, give them the skill set, bring them through the school, and then be able to engage with the public with my best horse friend, and then be able to share a lot about the training and the horse's story. And
that's quite unique, isn't it?
Yes, very unique.
Is there any other program like that?
There are several in the country like that. They, usually they're used in search and rescue, those types of situations. It's something that I'm looking to grow into a full-time program, but this is where we started. And so that's where we're at right now. But it's been really beautiful because all of my police horses are rescues. So they've all been in the slaughter pipeline.
Wow.
And so the story that I have about their transformation really is able to transcend to different audiences. This story of trust building, which is the anti-bullying message, right? Kindness and trust building.
That's giving me shivers. I just think, 'cause I didn't know this part. I think this is so cool because, you know, personally, I feel that horses in community are so important. I mean, I can remember as a little kid, I couldn't, you know, like every horse I saw, I pointed at the horse. And if the horses aren't visible to people, they don't know about them. Right.
Yes.
And so having them in a position where it's a police officer, but there's a horse and there's a rescue story. I mean, there's so many pieces here that you need to write a book that you could interweave into that, because the whole idea of recovery, that you can do something else, and that connection, and just what a horse gives. I just think that's so fantastic. I just really think that's awesome.
That is everything to me. I got into this career because I love to serve. I was a firefighter before, and I always just lived to help other people. And I love what I do. I love engaging with the public, and I love connecting in kindness with them with a horse, which I think is the best community relations tool and the best way to connect and transcend different messages to children and adults. Where, you know, if I have this horse that I can show them photos, I can tell them the story. This horse was given up on, it was discounted physically and mentally. It was thrown away. It was someone else's trash, or it was let down, or it was hurt, you know, and I believed in it, and I built up trust through kindness and through, you know, doing different therapies and physical and mental rehabilitation. And I built that trust with this animal, and now you see it standing before you, and it's so proud. And I feel like the police horses are the superheroes of the horse world. And so I mean, in terms of, you know, I mean, there are incredible athletes in every realm of horses, but I think police horses are really special, and the work that they can do in the community is really special. And I like to tell the story of, really, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't determine what you can make of yourself, you know, and it's the size of the heart that really matters for them, because I can show you the lumps and bumps and the traumas that they've had, and the size of their heart transcends all of that past. And, you know, so that's something that I love to share. And I think
that is so awesome. And you know, like I said, if I can remember, like, you know, going to New York City and you see a police horse and you're like, is it, you know, I mean, it was just, there's just something about it that you cannot replace the horse in those kind of environments. There, you know, a motorcycle doesn't do it, a bicycle doesn't do it, right?
Yes.
But a horse, a living, breathing creature that, you know, is warm to touch and fuzzy.
It's true. And it also humanizes the person who is on top of the horse, because when I was driving a car on the highway, nobody came to talk to me about my police car.
Right. Right.
I mean, with the exception of like a 7-year-old boy who wanted to see the lights and sirens. But you know, it really brings everyone to the horse. I mean, big, strong, tough guys who would have never wanted to talk to me before. And they're like, can I pet your horse? And I'm like, yes, please. And I show them where they can do that safely. And I explain how the horse sees, and you know, and how there's a friendly place, you know, to be around them and things like that. And then they want to know all the details of the horse. And then I tell the story. And a lot of people don't know the plight of some of the rescue horses in this country. They don't know anything about the slaughter industry or pipeline. They don't know that, you know, horses could end up in a bad way. And so it's an opportunity for me to educate on that platform as well. And then also, one of my police horses is a retired racehorse. And awesome. I love to show him in his second career being, you know, excellent.
Now, do you ever go to like schools and things and do talks with you? Oh, awesome.
Yes, yes. So I love to do leadership work that way. And then talking to kids about the anti-bullying message, which is really building um, good relationships and connections and being kind and not discounting people by their physical and mental limitations, because it's the size of the heart that matters. And so I have really had some wonderful times at schools and large community events sharing the power of the horse.
That is so awesome. I think I need to connect you with Pippin at the Plaid Horse so she can do a story on you in her magazine. I think that would
Oh,
be
thank
awesome.
you.
So I will, I'm just going to make a note to remind myself. Okay. All right.
I want to write some children's books called the Superhero Rescue Horse series, and each book is going to be based on a virtue, and then also based on one horse's unique story and how they made their transformation, and it rooted in that virtue of, say, trust building and kindness building and things like that, and then have the superhero be the star of the book and the lesson of being the virtue. And so that's something in the future.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have Pippin on because she was across the aisle from me, and she's written these books for children about positive messaging. And I was like, okay, we got to connect you, but I will.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I really don't know how. Yeah, I need help, and I don't
exactly.
Really know where to go,
To get stuff published. Believe me, I've done it. It's not an easy thing. It's kind of, if you have some help, it really makes it easy. Okay.
Definitely.
So I know you have a PowerPoint. Shall we dive into that now?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. And if anybody has any questions for Mary, just pop it in the chat of the Q&A. And then when I feel like it's a pause, I can introduce that question, or if it seems appropriate to the conversation. But I just think this is the coolest thing, to be able to take rescue horses and turn them into superheroes. I think that's great.
Share. Okay. And presentation. Oh, presentation. There we go.
There we go. Awesome.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, how cute. I love the ears.
Yes, my youngest Surefoot fan, Lady Justice, and she was actually born with neonatal isoturosis, which means that when she was born, her blood type was incompatible to her mother's, causing extreme anemia. She was allergic to the colostrum, and she had a very rough few first days of life, and was a little bit frail because of that. And so she got started on her Surefoot journey pretty soon, and her mother as well, because she actually wasn't allowed to be turned out because she couldn't get her heart rate up and have to breathe harder. So she wouldn't have enough oxygen, being anemic. So the mare, who is a wild Mustang, was stuck in the stall with this little girl for a couple of days, which was tough on her. So the pads definitely helped that process, because she was something to engage with, and then also it was able to help her physically when she wasn't able to move around a lot. So all right, just a little bit about me. We just kind of touched on all this. I always knew, I think that everyone has a unique purpose, a passion and purpose in their life, and I know that the course that I have been on is something that has been sort of destined for me. And so I've always been really interested in police work and community outreach. And, to me, it's like, I'm a woman with a hammer, and I see every problem looking like a nail, right? And the horse is my hammer, and I can solve so many problems with that, with my horse. So community outreach in that regards, and generating so many positive interactions with the community, and then using the horse as a vehicle for really great life lessons for children and adults. So I'm very blessed. I've been able to combine my two passions together. And so my why, we talked a little bit about.
Can we just go back to that for a second? Because I just spotted the last line, that you've worked with the natural lifemanship.
Yes.
And that's, I need to get them to come on and talk, because Callie King has done a lot with natural. They started doing
Yes.
workshops at her barn, and then she started going to the other trainings. Can you just touch on that briefly? Because I think that's
Yes.
okay.
So natural lifesmanship, Bettina Schultz Job, I was thinking when I was driving to my farm today, I was like, wow, she would be an incredible person for you to interview. She and her husband are natural lifesmanship, and they've created this, it is basically equine-assisted psychotherapy with a trauma focus. So if you take the course, it gives you the entire background of what is trauma and what happens in the brain, and where a person is in the brain when they are stressed or having a PTSD or dysregulated, and then how you have to move up through from the brainstem to the neocortex to be able to actually be in the parasympathetic nervous system and be able to have social engagement and learn and rest and play. And so the science behind it, the neuroscience behind it, trauma and the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, attachment and detachment issues. It was a huge education for me to apply to my horsemanship and the way that I train horses and the way that I interact with people. And I also, because, you know, the primary hierarchy of need for everyone, horses and people, is rooted in safety. And if you are always feeling unsafe, that becomes the muscled up response within the brain. And so you just go there, and that's how you can get stuck there. And that's how horses can get stuck there. And so it was really tremendous. And, you know, kind of making requests for interaction with the horse and having different things about the communication with them that I took away from it was really helpful. And the relationship being the vehicle for change really is a big focus, that you building connection versus control. Because if you the connection, the control is the side effect of connection. But you first have to build the connection. You cannot have control with a horse be the primary focus. So
I think that is so important. That statement right there, the connection versus control, and that you have to have connection, because what we have seen in, you know, in old school is you have to control this horse. You have to do whatever, whether that's, you know, very abusive, which most of the control techniques become, because they have to escalate, as opposed to developing the connection where you don't need to have that type of manipulation, if you will, to find a sense of control, which really ultimately isn't. I think that's really cool. Important.
Yes, and it explained a lot of things about why some things work with horses, and I didn't know why, but the biggest way to regulate a nervous system is through routine sensory or rhythmic sensory input. So that's why rhythm, just using a rhythm with the aids, using a rhythm with like sending a horse out on a circle, using, you know, the tool, your groundwork tools, say you have a stick or something, using rhythm is so helpful for a horse. And then also rhythm, like if I bring a horse in the ring, in the arena, and they are not okay, I will just walk in a rhythm matching steps for 15 minutes, and then I'll see where I'm at and I'll start again, you know. And just having that rhythm is what regulates the nervous system and allows them to move from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic, you know, move up to the outer regions of the brain to be able to be socially engaged. So that was something that I wanted to take their course, because I would love to work with victims of human trafficking at some point, and children in foster care, and I want to be able to use the horses to help heal people. And so that was kind of my first step in that direction. So
yeah, I will reach out to them and see if I can get them to come on a webinar.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of my why, I guess, you know, I really see the greatness and potential in all beings. And I believe that the value of a life, in the value of a life, and that parallels how we should treat people. And everyone's looking for a cheerleader. So if we believe in people, or we believe in that horse, they can then believe in themselves. And so, back to trauma, here we are, like, just the horse is a nervous system, and we're a nervous system, and everybody just wants to feel safe and okay, and comforted. And so having that thought is a great way to then do everything else from. I think that when you take a horse that's been thrown away and you transform, the act of the transformation is really love in action. And so with the horses, I started in a different way than most people, and I think that's a lot of what's brought me here. I couldn't afford to, my parents couldn't afford lessons when I was a kid, and the only access that I had to horses was being a sidewalker for hippotherapy. And I took the bus with kids from my school that were not able-bodied. Some were blind, and some had some physical issues, and some had mental challenges. And then I saw them do things with horses that I couldn't do, and I saw the magic firsthand. And that's how I started with horses. And then I went on and became competitive and things like that. But the magic there never left. And so when my mother, she's passed now, but she was an artist, and she would challenge my siblings and I. She would give us a canvas, or some paper, and she would say, now just like make a couple marks on this paper. And so you'd make some splotches and kind of mess it up a little bit, and she would say, okay, now make something beautiful out of this, and actually tie something that kind of looks like a mistake into something beautiful. And I always thought that those exercises in creating come from that mess, like kind of creating something beautiful from that mess, they always ended up being the most beautiful things that I could ever create. And I think rehabilitating horses is a lot like that. You say, like, I have this, and there's some things here, and I'm gonna just make something beautiful out of this. And so I also was a cellist for many years, and I did a lot of community orchestras and things, and I was in a pit band, which is the background music to plays, and there were no parts for the cello, and I had to just use my ear and make my own part for what we were doing. And I feel like that was a great experience.
Very cool. Like, you have to improv even when everybody else knows what they're doing.
Exactly. I'm like, I have this cello, and I'm just gonna make my own part here. And I think that was a great exercise for life. So my first start in horse training was at an Arabian farm. I had worked at the farm. It was previously an eventing farm, and it changed hands into an Arabian training facility. And they gave me a great opportunity to train and teach. And the thing with the Arabian horses is they really don't allow themselves to be bullied, and they're very smart, and they're very you look at them and you know what's going on. They're so expressive. And so I think my experiences with them made me much more aware of horses' expressions, because the expressions for them really mattered, within the in-hand classes. You wanted them to be expressive and connecting and interested and engaged. And I think, that also helped shape kind of my awareness of the horse and their comfort or discomfort. And I always was interested in the problem horses, because I felt like that was a puzzle that I just really wanted to solve for them. And I think that one of the greatest things about the Surefoot for me is the equine experiential education. That's another equine facilitated learning modality. And the premise is being open to outcome. And so you're exercising with the horse at liberty, or you're facilitating this exercise for people with horses. And you kind of go through, well, what happened out there and why did that happen and where else does that happen in life? And you know, you're not supposed to force anything. You really want the participants to learn from themselves, which is the greatest way to learn. And I think that the same principle applies when you're working with Surefoot, is to really be open to outcome. And it was funny when we were at Sue Smith's for the training, Becky Tenges was saying that, you know, a lot of times she puts like, this is the right pad for this foot. And I give it, you know, I put it down and I'm like, yes, this is going to be perfect. And then the horse kicks it and flips it upside down or sideways. And we're like, okay, well, that's what we wanted. So, and then I always think everything means everything. Like everything that happens means something. Maybe we don't know what it means yet, but it's information to just stick in your pocket and think about later when you're talking to the vet or your trainer, or you learn more about a horse's story. So that's why some of why Surefoot really resonates with me.
Yeah, as soon as I read that, I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly it.
Yes, exactly. So for me, I think there's just this huge gap in when I have a horse that's been rescued and then where I would like for them to be. There's this gap, and that gap is everything. It's huge. It's not like I took the horse and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna just, you know, do what I can and get them kind of going along and see if they can be something or whatever. I have a specific goal, and sometimes they don't get there. I'm not saying that every single horse can be a police horse, but to have that goal for me is what pushes me to fill in all the holes and to grasp at every bit of education I can to fill that foundation. So I think the space between where you are now and where you want to go that's where the magic happens, because that divide creates the necessity to find the tools and education to truly heal the horse mentally and physically, to have that solid foundation. And so that's where I have grown the most.
And so this is the same horse, the horse down in the, how old is he there down in the left-hand corner?
I think she was about 2. She
And
was
then
a PM.
So, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
She was a PMU rescue. She and all of a bunch of other young PMU babies were on a slaughter truck they were in Canada and they were going to a meatpacking plant, and someone paid for the whole trailer of horses to turn around and go to a rescue. Wow. And so that's where she ended up. And then the original adopter, when she grew up, the original adopter, but she was a little too big for her. And so then she was available again. And she was just really just a little bit broke. And she had some issues, a little quirks and things like that from some experiences from the past, I think. She has obviously made a really amazing transformation. She actually won the North American Police Equestrian Championships expert equitation class, which is a dressage class for police horses. Wow. Yeah, so that was our shining moment.
How old is she here in the other picture?
She's 11.
Wow, but she's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been able to go to the White House with her and to Niagara Falls and everywhere in between. And she has been really an incredible ambassador for rescued horses and for police horses, really. I mean, and I'm not representing any agency or anything by, you know, right now I'm just speaking in general police horses, but she's just been able to connect with so many people in kindness. Old folks' homes during the pandemic. We went because I felt awful that they were deprived of being able to see their loved ones. And, you know, so we looked through all their windows and, you know, The amount of children that have hugged her and kissed her and petted her, and we do that Old Town Road. We'd like to dance to that Old Town Road song sometimes when we go places. We just like to do our slide to the left and slide to the right, and have some fun with people, and she's been incredible. So, but I have a few like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so the one in the top left corner, that's Panda, and she was in a kill pen, and she is she's the gray on the right. She's grayed out, and
just use your pointer because your left and right is different than our left and right.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So she is this gray horse on the opposite side here, and she's been able to do amazing, incredible things with me. This one horse in the middle, the thoroughbred, she had made a very lovely transformation, and she's actually what brought me to Surefoot. I had seen a video of her. She was in Louisiana in a kill pen, and she looked really bad, and I just said, I have to stop that. I have to right the wrongs for that horse. And I know you can't save all of them, but I said that horse obviously has gotten the short stick in life, and I wanted to stop all of the bad things for her. And so I worked with Gerda's Equine Rescue in Vermont, and she was able to go up there for her quarantine, and she came down to me. And you can see in the photo above, she's in wonderful health now, and she's adopted and has a loving mother and everything. But she was the huge teacher for me. I didn't have the tools to help her. I didn't know how to solve the problem of her being stuck in survival mode. And it didn't matter what I did and how connected I could be connected and do liberty and things like that. And she was still not relaxed. And her knees would bounce, and her veins would stick out, and she just always looked like she knew something bad was happening, and she was existing in that space. And that's what brought me to you for her physical rehabilitation, and that is what brought me to the natural lifemanship. And also something that I've learned a lot about that I utilize is energy tapping, which is just building attunement and awareness through presenting your energy to the horse. And when they show a sign of relaxation, like blinking, licking, chewing, flicking an ear back, connecting to you, then I turn that energy off and I turn away. And so a lot of times horses have not ever experienced that level of connection with a person or engagement. And when they know that you're present, they can relinquish the need to feel like for them to be on high alert, right? Because they don't need to be really in control of making sure that they're safe, because you're present and aware. And so you're now a herd of two. And so that is an exercise that I do. And I learned that to help her. And so she is what brought me to Surefoot. And the horse, that's the bay on the far side. That's Gunner. He raced 105 times. He went to the Amish for 8 years. And then he was in a bad place. He actually was the only horse left in the pen due to a clerical error. He should have shipped out. And a wonderful woman sponsored his rescue and sent him to me. A standardbred breeder who is really big into aftercare, Michelle Crawford, and she saved him for me, and she sent him to me and said, do your thing with him. And he's in the bottom corner with the soccer ball, playing soccer with lots of kids. That's his signature. His signature community outreach tool is playing soccer with children. And so actually there's been a book written about him by Victoria Howard and his transformation. And so, he's really special. And then there's that little Pinto guy that looks pretty pathetic in the trailer there. And then the photo of the arrow pointing to his transformation, and he was adopted by an incredible human being, and he's living the good life now. So just, you know, proving the value of a life is really just what it's all about.
And the other thing I think this shows also is the horse's ability to heal is so amazing that,
Yeah.
you know, when we take the stresses off of them and provide them with the opportunity, they can heal.
They are so flexible and they're so forgiving. And it's like they've been waiting the whole time for us to just get it.
Yeah.
And it never ceases to amaze me. It's like when we finally get it right, they're like, I've been waiting for you to figure that out. I'm right here. I got it.
I feel that way with Surefoot all the time. It's like, finally.
Yeah. They're an incredible example of flexibility and adversity.
Yeah.
Overcoming adversity. So in terms of rescues, and these really apply to every horse, not specifically just rescues, but it's just been some unique applications that I've used. You know, the horse's primary need is to feel safe. And so if you go to a horse show and your horse will not hand graze, they are not okay up there. They are not okay. And so actually when I first arrived at the thoroughbred makeover, my thoroughbred would not graze. And so I told my girls, she's not okay. She's being really stoic, but she's not okay. And let's get the Surefoot pads. Let's go out on the grass. And we did the Surefoot pads until she put her head down she was on the pads. She put her head down and she ate grass. And then I said, okay, well, she's good now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I will use them during grooming or tacking up, or if I'm doing another therapy like the Beamer, I will put them on the half physio pads generally, or my grooming stall staple. During periods of stress, when a horse arrives at the rescue, or if they're a bonded pair and the other pair leaves them, you know, those are times of real stress for a horse, and using Surefoot during that time can definitely help them become more mentally present and relaxed. I had a lot of experience with my mare and foal with the pads.
Oh, cool.
And yeah. And then horses who are unrestricted turnout or no turnout. I think it's really, really important because so if they're on the pads and they can find a better posture, they can stimulate the vagus nerve and they can have more access to digestion and healing. And so, you know, of course, I always say, like, you know, use wisdom, call your veterinarian if something's not right. But if I have one horse that I'm working with the vet on, and he will gas colic when the weather changes. And the first thing that I do is I put him on the pads, and then, you know, and I give him some Banamine and, you know, and whatnot. But yeah, so that's how I use that when a horse is gas colicking. And I actually had one of my students' horses I went to teach a lesson to, and I showed up and they brought the horse in and the horse was gas colicking. And I said, we're going to give him some Banamine and we're going to get him on the pads. And that's what we did. And 30 minutes later, the horse was fine. And so that was a really positive experience for me with that.
Yeah, we've had a number of people now report that they've used the pads with colic. And of course, you always want to call your vet. But
Yes.
while you're waiting, you know, there's no harm
Exactly.
or foul. If they don't want it, they won't stand on it. But there's been a lot of instances. But please, if your vet shows up after a long night and they come on the farm call, please just don't say, oh, Surefoot, take care of it, because they're not going to be happy. You know,
Yeah,
thank them profusely, let them look at your horse and just, you know.
Dr. Heather O'Leary, right?
Yeah.
I listened to her podcast. She actually is in like the next town over from me. So
Oh, cool.
She's worked on my horses.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah, picking up hooves. A lot of horses come into the rescue, donkeys, mules, minis, you know, poor hoof condition or lack of hoof handling. And this can be a great way to create a positive experience with picking up a foot. Pick up a foot, throw it on a pad. That's what I did. I last November I got a Mustang that was in the kill pen. She was unhandled. She arrived in November. 4 days in from gentling her, she was on a pad.
Wow.
So I used the pads to help her pick up her feet, because when I would pick up her foot, she would either fall down or she would fall forward and step away. She couldn't balance herself on the 3 legs. She just
Couldn't.
She was in such a survival posture. But I'll show you her transformation later. She was so narrow in both the front and the back, and she was a little toothpick and whatnot, and she couldn't balance. And so I got her on a pad as soon as I could touch her legs. So that helped her. And she's actually the mare who had the foal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So helping pick up feet for young foals and young horses. My foal, I had a hard time picking up her left front. She would drop her shoulder down and fall down. And so I would just pick it up, put it under a pad. And she actually, I did it twice, and then I never had to do it again for that purpose, because she's able to pick them all up evenly now. Metabolic types, I have a couple like that live in a sand pen because they can't have grass, and they're able to make themselves comfortable when they have a tougher day. And I love to bring the pads out there into the sand pen and say, like, because they also receive less engagement. I bring them in and I groom them and things like that. But if they're not being ridden, this is a really great way that they can still keep a healthier posture and engage with us. So that would be the horse in the top. It would probably be the top left for you. The spotted draft. He's a quad founder, and he has a severe heart arrhythmia. So he is not allowed to be ridden. He could drop of a heart attack. It was incurable. His heart rhythm would not change from the medicine and everything. And so he's just a great friend, and he loves Surefoot. And I actually purchased the 2 half physios for him to be able to pick up one foot. The other one would be on a pad. And then also to help for the farrier, because it was so uncomfortable for him to have his feet trimmed that the farrier would have to come and do it in 2 different days.
Wow.
Which is not the case now. So when horses arrive at a rescue, they generally start out in a really terrible posture, a survival posture, and head up, and a lot of under the neck tension, and or really, really narrow in the front and back. And I think the pads really help kind of unlock all of that and give them some more options to feel their body differently. And when I visit horse rescues, there are really wonderful volunteers that donate a lot of time to these horses. And I think for them to use the Surefoot pads, it's a really great way for them to hone their observation skills and make observations not just about horse body language, but in general, but that horse individually, and what they're showing on the pads might mean something, or might tell a little bit about their past. And then, of course, gaining posture and strength, and then working with a veterinarian for prescribed usage. And something really interesting, creating a positive association to the training environment. We don't think about that, but a lot of horses have a very negative association to the training environment if they have had some trauma in the past related to an arena. And so my thoroughbred makeover horse was living in survival mode, and I just took her into the arena every day, and I did Surefoot and then brought her back to every day. let's just come out here and do something really fun together, and then I'm gonna put you back back outside or whatever. And so you can really reshape the horse's nervous system response to a training area if something negative has happened there before.
It's one of my favorite things. I don't talk that much about it, but it is one of the most fun things, because you watch the horses come in and they're like, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like their ears are up and they're like, oh, you got pads? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
it's so
you come in
true.
and go, oh my God, I got to go to the, or even like putting tack on, same thing. It's really fun to watch that change. Yeah.
I agree. I will often just start with the pads and then I'll say, all right,
You're a little freezy.
like,
Uh-uh. Not sure why you're a little freezy. Oh dear. Oh, I hope we didn't lose her. Hang on. Let's see if we can. Not sure why. All right. Is anybody else?
oh, did I lose you?
Yeah, it crashed, but I'm back.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so we were talking about using them in a training environment, and then it crashed. But we're back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will often just bring the horse out in the arena and do a pad session, and then kind of evaluate from there what I have with this horse physically and mentally, where to go from there. And I say, okay, well, am I going to do some classical and hand work, or some groundwork, or obstacles, or some interactive lunging, or am I going to ride this horse now? And a lot of times I can kind of gauge where the horse is, or bring them to a better place to be able to build off of that experience. And so I've used the pads in just about everywhere. Some horses, like the baby, I will use them in the stall because I don't take her all the way up to the riding arena. So I've used them in the medical paddock. I've used them out on the grass with a horse that's just where we are, and they're interested. I mean, they're interested in doing it, and I can kind of work it in also to making sure that they're okay and that they want to graze. And then the indoor and outdoor arena and round pen. So let's see. We talked a little bit about this, but the magic for me with using Surefoot for the rescues is the physical rehabilitation through resetting their proprioception, through engaging their stabilization system, right? And that's like all of your other experts know a lot more about that than I do. I just know that it happens, and I don't know all of the muscle groups. I'm not a body worker, but I know that it's creating positive change. And I learned a lot at the clinic at Sue's, being surrounded by some incredible subject matter experts, and being able to look through their lens a little bit while they made amazing observations about what was going on with the horse's body. And I've been able to take that experience from that and have a more educated lens when I'm observing a horse. So a lot of horses are really stuck in that survival posture, and it will perpetuate the production of adrenaline. It will continue them down that path of stress, because when the body is stuck in this posture of stress, it creates more stress. So being able to shed that is going to facilitate the horse being able to enter the parasympathetic nervous system so they can rest, digest, play, learn, heal, and socially engage. And that unlocking of the survival posture, you'll see the rotation of the pelvis, they'll lower their head, engage the abdominals, which will trigger the engagement, it will trigger the vagus nerve, and then widening their stance, and just the experience is relaxing. I think the biggest tool, or the biggest magic, is really just greeting the horse with the right intention. Approaching them with the pads like, I'm here to help you, and I see you, I see that you're uncomfortable, I see that you're struggling. You have a voice, I want to listen to it, and keep talking, start talking. Don't you think it's like horses that have never had a voice before, right?
Right. And that's it. It is so fascinating to me when you come up and you make it an offer, and when they say no, you're like, okay, well, let me see if you like either a different foot or a different pad, or, give you a chance to think about that, and watch how they're like, it's okay. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. And then, but you might like it. Oh, okay. And so there's this whole sort of unspoken dialogue about, this is like not anything else that you've experienced. We're not going to train you to do this. We're just going to, see if you like it. And that attitude just makes it so much lighter and easier for them to go, well, maybe I'll give it a try,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
and one of the things I find so fascinating when I'm working with an owner is we've been taught that the horse has to be good.
Yeah.
And so in an effort for the horse to be good, we're back to that control to try and, stay, sweetie, stay, but that if we can let go of that, and that's not easy, people don't even know they're doing it. But when we can let go of that and say, if he moves, he's lost balance. That's what we're here to find out. Then they're like, oh, okay. So moving isn't no, moving's fine. And that's what I point out to people is that if the horse moved, he may have lost his balance, and that's what we're trying to determine. And then they can kind of understand it from, oh, this is actually giving us some information. Like,
yeah. And you're not perpetuating that freeze, that dorsal vagal break of just I don't care, that you're uncomfortable, do this anyway. That's happens enough in life.
Oh yeah.
For them. So if you touch the pad and you want to move now, let's go for a walk and let's try it again. And you can do that. And I'm okay with that. And we're gonna celebrate your freedom of choice.
Yep. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So I think that having that intention, also when you're really observing, you're mentally present. And it helps them become mentally present as well, which helps them facilitate relaxation. And they notice that you notice. They notice that you notice that they're uncomfortable. They notice that you notice they're uncomfortable, and that builds attunement. I love that attunement is also from natural lifemanship, and I think that's really important that the horse notices that you notice. And so that is when they
observe. I mean, they observe everything.
Yes.
And so when they realize that we're observing something, they're like, oh, you're here.
Yeah, you're here. You're actually here. You're not somewhere else thinking about all the other things you need to do later, and you're on the cell phone, or you're looking at Facebook, or unconscious, right? Because they are congruent. What they think, what they feel in this moment, they show you. But people are not like that. And so we're physically here, but a lot of times we're not mentally here. And that is not going to promote the horse feeling safe, because they know that if we are a herd of two walking around and you're not conscious, then I'm going to have to watch out for myself. The horse, right? So the horse is going to feel that way. And so we can actually relinquish some of their responsibility of having to make sure that they feel safe and are aware of everything that's going on around them just by being present. So the pads really engage curiosity, and curiosity I find with the police work, I first want the horse to be really curious, and then I want them to dominate the obstacle by either tracking it or stepping on it, right, or touching it. And that's how I build confidence. And so a horse being encouraged to be curious and to be interactive in their environment is going to bridge confidence. And that's just from my experience with doing a lot of obstacle training and just understanding the changes within the horse's nervous system to bring them from being scared of a flag to carrying the flag at a ceremony. Like that gap there. The gap really, if you break it down, starts with encouraging the curiosity and the connection to that thing. And then becoming confident through following it and tracking it and stepping on it and things like that. The observation for the caretakers, like we said before, gaining the information through observation and building connection with the horse, because the horse will want to be with you if you bring something to them of value that makes them feel better about themselves. And you're not just, I think about when I'm with a horse that we have a bank account, and if I'm always making withdrawals, there's not going to be anything left to withdraw at a certain point. I have to add positive deposits to that relationship bank. And this is definitely a great way to do that. So this may be the first time that a horse has experienced this type of interaction with a human. And so a lot of times, it's really cool to see them have a choice, and come out of that shell. That the one horse that I'll show you my case study next, she started out, we called her Sad Eeyore. Nobody was home. She was shut down. She just sat in the back of the stall, sad, not expecting to engage with anyone. And then when you can take that and then see the changes in the opening of that, that's why I do this. It's the most beautiful experience to be able to facilitate that. So,
and they don't always respond the first time. I'm sure you find with the rescue horses that they don't respond the first time or second or third. Like they have to have some repeated experience, and then they suddenly go, what?
Yeah, exactly. I just trust the process, and the way that you teach it, with the way that you teach the process with mindfulness to safety and choice, and you just present it and then relinquish your attachment to outcome, and then present it again the next day, and then all of a sudden, day 2 or 3 for a lot of these horses, they're like, wow, they're like, wow, well, maybe I want this pattern. They kick it around, and you're like, yeah, that's so cool. Let's do that. Let's put that on that foot now.
Yeah.
So, do we have time to go over a case study?
Oh, absolutely. This looks really interesting.
Cool. So this is Liberty, and Liberty raced. She was a bleeder. So her race owners, and she was slow apparently. So her race owners sold her, and she ended up in the hands of a kill buyer unintentionally. But she ended up in the pen, and I saw her, and I honestly was at a point. This was this January of 2021. Oh, I sorry, the thing is wrong. It was January 2021. My presentation says 2020, but yeah, so that was just 11 months ago. She was in the pen at the end of January, and I saw her photo, and I said, that horse is going to go to the thoroughbred makeover with me. And I really couldn't afford it, and I didn't have a stall open. And I said, I just relied on my wonderful significant other's big heart to believe in what I believe in. And I was like, listen, the universe is conspiring for us to achieve this. This is, like from The Alchemist, I feel like the universe is going to conspire for me to be able to do this with this horse. I don't know. I have a feeling. So I just have this feeling about her, and I'm gonna need everybody to be supportive here. So yeah, so thankfully my amazing friend Gerda Silver from Gerda's Equine Rescue did rescue her on my behalf and accepted her into her program. And so she went up there to quarantine. I was there on the center photo where she has the auction sticker is the day she arrived at the rescue. And I went to visit her, and then about a month later she came to me. And the picture where she has, the short tail, her tail was chewed off by starving horses in the pen. And that's why it's really short there. So yeah. So Liberty, this was some of the sessions that we had with the pads. The one that is, I'm pointing at her shoulder, that was one of the first ones. And she obviously looked, she looked pretty poor. I'm going to just go ahead and turn on the case study and
Yeah.
just show the process of what I went through with her, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Can you hear that?
Yeah, sometimes videos don't play in real time. Let's just let it play a little bit and then start it again, and maybe it'll catch up.
Okay.
Or maybe you can narrate it, because it's not, so sometimes videos don't play in smoothly. So beautiful facility, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can't hear what you're saying.
Okay. So I'm just introducing her for my case study here, and she's not been ridden. She had been with me for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks at that point. All I did was try to feed her up really well and get her hydrated, and she was turned out with a herd of other mares.
And that brings up, a lot of these horses are dehydrated, aren't they?
Yes.
It's
Severely dehydrated. I don't think they have access to water or where they feel safe to drink.
yeah.
So she already looks a bit better just after a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna first kind of show how she walks. She's a little stabby behind.
Yep.
Her hips and stifles and stuff seemed, a little bit stiff and not necessarily lame, but a little bit bothered.
Yep.
So I just showed how she walks there. And then this is the first time she's been presented the pads. And so she's obviously looking around. She's, a little concerned for her safety in the environment. This was the second time she was ever in the arena. And so I just try to engage her in, let's check this out. How do what do you think here? And do you see anything? It's like you're shopping and you're like, you see anything interesting?
I
Let's
love
go
that.
shopping. Let's
And
see
I love
what we
the
want
fact
to put in our cart.
Yeah, she has space to move away, but she also has, like you've got the one eye toward the pad so she can see them, but she can also see that there's a way to move away and just shopping. I think that's great.
Yeah, so we went shopping but she really didn't want to engage with the pads at all. And at that point, but that's okay. She does now, a couple sessions later, and she is all about her choice and all those things. But this is what you start out with. And she doesn't have very good balance. She's very weak. She was in this period of kind of detoxing from track drugs. She had been raced right before her rescue.
And
so
I think that's another thing people don't necessarily recognize, is that a lot of these horses off the track take time to get rid of the drugs.
Yeah, and since she was a bleeder, I'm sure she had Lasix and things like that. And
yep.
So she had some malaise for a while. She was not perky. She was just kind of sad and lethargic. And so I said to my assistant, we're just going to present these pads to her every day, every time we have a session with her. And that is going to help her come to life. And so that's what we did. And so she didn't want to step on the pad, but that was okay. And she smelled it. She engaged with it.
She almost stepped on it there herself, didn't she?
She did.
But
so then I said, okay.
I love this.
Now she's aware of her environment now.
I was going to say, like she barely touched the pad and suddenly her neck is down and she's like, oh, what's this environment? And, that is so hard to communicate to people how quickly that can happen, right? Exactly. You saw that with the thoroughbred at Sue's, how instantly she was like, oh, let me check out the arena instead of let me leave the arena.
Yeah, exactly. And then, looking to kind of release endorphins by rubbing the lip on the ground and stuff, and being more aware of the environment. And so now that I come around and she stands on the pad for a brief period of time and she's like, oh, and I think her breathing changed there. where she kind of switched from the survival state to more the parasympathetic state. And now she's starting to lower her posture a little bit, but she actually stayed there. So it's just like I present it and relinquish attachment to outcome and then just try it again.
Yeah. I mean, that's so cool. This is a great piece of film, because it can be just that quick that they go, oh, this is okay. And she's very aware of her environment, but she's able to observe her environment. Yes,
definitely. Honestly, it was hard to walk her up to the arena.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, she was a little bit explosive. And that's what always happens when horses, and I always try to prepare people for this, but there's no straight line from shutdown to being relaxed and happy. There's that ugly period of time where they wake up and they feel things and they don't understand the world around them, and they need some real compassion and help through that time to see the other side of that. And so a lot of the horses that I wake up from this shutdown, they will be a little bit explosive or
and it's messy, and it can be scary because suddenly this horse that was seemingly quiet is now reacting at everything. And you know, it's hard not to kind of get caught up in their anxiety at that moment. It's really that you have to just go, this is just a phase, this will pass.
Don't give up. I always say, do not give up on them. You know, there is another, they're going to get over that hill. And then that other side of the hill is just absolutely beautiful, but you just have to see them through it and be consistent and just try to build that connection and that relationship. And so the Surefoot pads, you know, were really my primary method of waking this horse up from her shutdown and engaging her in curiosity. And
Yes. And then you did take her to the Retired Racehorse Project. Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
In what discipline?
And, you know, we were a little behind the ball because she had been rescued this year, and I didn't ride her until June or July because I didn't feel like she was physically ready. And so we only went there with, I think, 3 or 4 months of training. And the first month was tack walking, and then really like the training took off, but I still wasn't, with my job, I work 60 to 90 hours a week sometimes. And I could not go on enough field trips to really gain that off the property confidence that I think I should have. I needed a little bit more of that when I was there. The Rolex Arena was really a big trigger for her.
Yeah, that's a tough space for a lot of horses.
But she did fine inside, and she was 10th in the freestyle.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so I mean, it wasn't about the destination. It was, you know, what she became in the process to get there.
Absolutely. And this was one of the things about this Retired Racehorse event. They had the horses from 2020 and the horses from 2021. It was so interesting to see the difference in the development for the horses that had another year, just physically, if not confidence and everything. And so, it's a big challenge. I have another client who she took her horse in dressage and was in first or second place, and then they went in the Coliseum with the big jumbotron, and the mayor had, but that mayor has gone on, and she just got a 70% at, I think it was I1. I mean,
oh my gosh, wow,
amazing to see how these thoroughbreds, and some of them need a little more time. That's just the way life is. But I'm hoping they might consider having a one where they, you know, continuing this idea of having the previous year come back, because it was really fascinating to see how much more mature the horses were and settled and physically more into their sport. But this is awesome because, you know, she just barely put her foot on that, wouldn't really step down, and now she's like chilling.
Yeah. And she's standing still, which was hard for her initially. Sometimes these horses really don't feel safe even standing still.
Well, and they're
And
so, the racehorses aren't supposed to stand still, if you will. The whole idea is that
yes,
they move. And so standing still for them is really hard.
it is.
Yeah.
And right here, she's engaging. There's social engagement there. She's connecting to me. I think I want to do.
You ever wondered?
Oh shoot! Ah.
Uh-oh.
Oh no!
It sounds like YouTube's
on.
taking over.
Oh,
Oh,
No, it's a diet thing. Hold on.
Okay.
Back. How do I do
sure, I
this?
might just unshare for a second.
Yeah.
Uh,
How did that go? How did that go away?
there we go. On YouTube, you never know what's
Skip
going
ads. Yeah.
on. Has anybody got any questions for Mary while she's sorting out her YouTube there? Really good
Okay.
job.
Yeah, I pressed the next button.
Oh yeah.
And it went to an ad and left my thing. So there was something that was really cool there right here. Oh,
Hang on.
shoot.
Rishi's screen share because I ended the screen share, so we
Okay.
could look at the crates of eggs for hours.
Yeah. Okay, so how do I
Your green button at the bottom.
there
Share
we
screen.
go. Share screen. Okay, can you see?
No.
Not yet.
Nope.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Yep, it's coming up.
Okay. Sorry about that. Pressed the wrong button and it took us into a dieting ad. We don't need that. Okay. So right here, she's really engaging with me, and that was for the first time in this session that she noticed me, really.
Wow.
So that's, she's licking and chewing and she's like, "Oh, hi, like you're here." We'll go back there. And so that's also one of the wonderful side effects of doing this. That lateral flexion there is really important. So yeah, she connected with me, and so I'm happy with this. She stood on this pad, this half physio pad, for a little bit here, and seems to be enjoying it. Her posture has improved, and now I'm going to safely kind of kick that away and then take her for a little walk.
Great. Yeah, because and that's really nice that you show that, because sometimes horses are a little stuck and they're not sure how to step off. So
Yeah.
it's just a better idea to take their foot off the pad and then they can figure it out from there.
I don't want them to think that they're wrong.
Yes, exactly. Or stuck.
Yes. Yeah, because, based on their unique past, maybe they would have been wrong for having gotten off of some obstacle or something in the past.
Well, especially when you're dealing with driving horses, like Amish driving horses, they're not allowed to move unless they're
Yeah.
asked to move. So that you have to really keep that into consideration.
That's true. I really love these half physios. That's kind of my go-to to start everything. They're just so friendly.
Yeah.
Especially for a horse that has a compromised balance and confidence. And then she uses multiple pads now, and the next thing I'm going to do is introduce her to the pads while riding.
But it's interesting how narrow she was there, that she wound up on one pad basically.
Yeah, I know. So she ends up here. I end up to fast forward. I kind of end the session with the two here, and then she gave a good lateral flexion there. She ends up stepping off on her own, which is absolutely fine.
Very nice.
And then we go for a walk. And then
I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Sharon Wilsey's Horse Speak?
Yes, I love watching Sharon Wilsey interviews with you. Yes.
Because it looks like she's touching her girth button, which now I'm blanking on what the girth button is, but where she reaches back and actually touch her girth button. I just saw them this weekend at Equine Affair, and they were talking about that, and I've totally blanked what that one is, but I think that's significant.
I see that. Yeah, I see that a lot with the pads.
Yeah. So if anybody out there that's watching remembers what the girth button is, just pop it in the chat.
Awesome. And then this is
just reset. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a reset.
This is just her next. Oh, it's a nervous system reset. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just her next session, and it's a little bit different lighting. So you can see the rippling. You can see the rippling over the rib cage of the fascia. Oh, we're buffering for a second.
Yep.
Buffering. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like little waves. And then there's twitching. There's firing right here. Can you see that right here? There's some firing in here, twitching. So, I mean, I think I didn't know what it all meant, but you know, it was really interesting to see her change and do that. I think some horses are really expressive in their changes, and she really was one of them.
Yeah. And you know, the fascia is so fascinating because you'll see twitching and rip. Oh yeah, there you could see the rippling. And it's just fascinating, actually. And she chose this. Yeah.
She chose that pad combination. I didn't show that process because we would be here for a while, but she was really narrow. And that's what she wanted. That right side was really hard for her. The right side, she did not have any confidence switching from left side to right side. Her right side was a huge challenge, which it is for a lot of racehorses, but she was particularly very vocal about her lack of confidence there, and was explosive on the right side of her body. And so I also saw that the Surefoot pads would help me kind of bridge both sides for her to get them more even and gain confidence on that side.
Super nice. So yeah, no, that's a really good point.
This muscle here is really engaged. I'm not a body worker. I don't have the knowledge of what muscle that is, but it's really engaged.
Yeah, and it's not the same on the two sides at all, is it?
No. No.
And have you seen a change in that over time?
All of my dogs just thundered into the room.
Yay! That's your. Oh, hang on. I've got to get back to my.
The significant other is luring the dogs back to where they belong now. Okay.
Have you seen a change in her hindquarters now? Of the muscling evened out?
Yes. Yeah. So much stronger and filled out and even.
And those that tight fat. You know, I mean, you almost wonder if that isn't tight fascial lines. Actually, the way it's so cut in there around. I said biceps femoris. My brain is a little sluggish today.
Yeah, so because I can notice where she has this, like the firing of the fascia to me is like pumping blood to this area that I think has been really stuck. And so I later then used just like a massage tool, like just like posture prep or the hands-on gloves or something, and really work into that area, because you see that it's atrophied there. So,
but she's really comfortable and relaxed standing there.
Yeah, definitely. And then let's see. It's just firing up those muscles. You know, it builds up the intrinsic muscles that kind of. So I'm just watching some little spasms around here. And then her pec, her right pectoral was also spasming. You see that? Oh, right there, firing.
Yep. It's a little hard to see because the video's breaking up, but yeah, I know this is the one thing that's difficult with Zoom, is having smooth running video. But yeah, we've seen a lot of that in different videos that I've played, and it is so. I think that's one of the things that's so cool, is that you see all these really interesting changes in the musculature and in the fascia, in addition to all of the relaxation that we see. So if
Yep.
someone, oh, cool, is this her?
So that's her. Yep. And it was only a couple months later. That was her. And so, yeah, she was able to make a full transformation. And like I said, having the goal of going to the thoroughbred makeover really kept us on track to fill that gap, like we talked about, you know, of really filling in all the holes and creating a beautiful work of art out of that blank canvas. And so that's her now, and should be adopted in the next week or so. And
Oh, wow.
so she's been really wonderful. And then, so this horse here, does anybody have any questions about Liberty? And then I'll move on to Freedom.
Does not appear so.
Okay. So Freedom was the Mustang that I rescued last November of 2020. And she is extremely front and hind narrow. I mean, her hind legs are almost touching each other.
Yeah.
Behind, that was the day that she arrived.
Wow.
And then so.
And was she pregnant at this point?
Yep. Yeah, she was.
Wow.
Yeah. She had the baby about 5 months after I rescued her. So this is her 3 months later. And I just did a lot of trick training and Liberty and everything with her. And then this was her 5 months later. And at that point, she was about ready to give birth. She was ready to foal out this little nugget here. And yeah, and so this Freedom is the Mustang, Lady Justice is the foal, the mule stang, Molly.
Did you know it was going to be a mule?
No, that was a really super bonus prize. It was like opening up a bunch of, like, a box of Cracker Jacks, and you don't know what your prize is going to be.
How cool. So cute.
When she came out of the placenta and her ears stuck off of her head this far, I was like, oh my God, it's a mule. Yeah, so she's been super fun and a learning experience. And like I said, she had that issue where she was really anemic at birth, because the two species together, it's actually can be common, the donkey and a horse, but together it's two species. And then so you have a unique blood type, and her blood type was incompatible to the mare's. And so the mare in the one photo is yawning from having stepped off of the pad. And then the baby was like, oh, I want some of that. Endorphins. I want some of those endorphins. Let me see how I get those. And we started investigating. And so she stands on the pads. And she had a hard time picking up her left front, and she seemed to distribute most of her weight into that leg, and it was hard for her to pick up. And so the pads helped us overcome that.
And how old is she here?
She was 3 weeks there. The one in the middle was a little bit older, probably 3 months there. And then this was her about, I want to say, 2 weeks old, but the one picture where she just has her little foot on there, that has to be at least, she's probably a week old in that one. And she just decided, she smelled them and then walked past it and then rested her little foot there and stood there for a couple.
Wow,
seconds.
all by herself.
All by herself. Yeah. Yep.
That is
so that was pretty interesting, exploring the pads. And then so now she's 6.5 months old, and she's a little bit bigger and sturdier, and she still stands on the half physios often. And then the mare, this is the mare now, that photo was taken yesterday. And she is using, now that she can be trained, now that she's kind of gotten rid of her little addition, her sidecar. And so she's able to go out in the arena and do all the pads and things now. So yeah,
it's a beautiful facility you have too. Just really lovely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was taken, this indoor arena is actually at my friend's place. She was taken to my friends for a week to separate them during the weaning, and then she'll come back. And yeah, so but the round building before, that's my indoor round pen.
Nice.
And this is my farm. So yeah, that's their story. This is the Clydesdale that you saw in the dressage arena as a police horse before, and she loves the pads also. And she was a PMU rescue. And you know, she in these photos, she had big road studs on. We go on the road all the time, and you know, the pads have been amazing. I was kind of concerned, like I was going to damage them, and I've had no issues whatsoever. They're really sturdy.
Awesome.
So she loves the pads. Just like kind of to bring it all full circle, you know, if you're thinking about how you can contribute to kind of the helping horses get surefoot, I love to use the philosophy of the time, talent, and treasure, you know, with most things. And so that principle really reigns true for rescue. It's a huge collaborative effort. There's no person that can just rescue a horse and do everything without the help of anyone else. You know, you can't be an island in this game. So I have wonderful people that help me, and have wonderful people that have helped me on my journey. And I try to help as much as I can other people. So in terms of how can you help with bringing surefoot pads to rescued horses, you know, it would be a great idea if you could do it, donate some surefoot pads to a local rescue, or make a donation to the rescue so they can purchase some pads. For a practitioner, donating a session to a rescue horse in need, and educate the organization about the physical and mental benefits of surefoot sessions. They may be able to fundraise for sessions for their resident horses. And if you're a practitioner and you have clients who purchase a package, then maybe one session, you can tell them one session is going to go to a rescue horse in need, and for them purchasing this package, and everybody feels great about that. So, you know, just some different ways to support the whole thing. And I think they're a really incredible, invaluable tool for rescued horses.
Yeah. And this was something, you know, Becky Kells was with me at Equine Affair, and we were talking about, you know, how can we get into more rescues and help more rescue horses, and more therapeutic riding, because those horses work really hard too. And
yes,
so we are thinking about how I need a lot more practitioners.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. Yeah. And so it goes, just go back to the intention, you know, how you make the horse feel about themselves in the process is just that's what really matters.
Oh. Well, this has been awesome, and it's really fun because, you know, I hadn't really talked to you much since the workshop that you did, but when you came to RRP, I was like, wow, you're really using Surefoot. And so it is so much fun to see how you're using it, and the way you're applying it, and where you're bringing it. And it's just awesome. So I want to thank you so much for doing this presentation, because this is great. And I love the mule. Sorry, the little baby mule is so cute.
Everybody needs one, but
Yeah.
only one. You can only handle one.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think Patrick King is who introduced me originally to Surefoot.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah. I had learned about Surefoot, and I was really trying to figure out which pads would be the best for that one thoroughbred horse that was really beat up in the photo. And I was taking a clinic with him, and it was a 2-day clinic, and I was trailering in and out, and I arrived, and the Surefoot, the whole kit and caboodle was right there in the entrance to the barn. And I'm like, oh my gosh, whose are these? And he's like, oh, those are mine, you know. And he I was so excited, overly excited. I think he felt bad for me. And he was like, you're coming back tomorrow, so you have to first watch some of the training videos on YouTube, so you know what you're doing, and then use them between now and tomorrow, and then bring them back, you know, before
awesome.
the next lesson.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, and I used them that whole morning on every horse in the barn. And then I brought them back to him, and then I realized that for the amount of horses that I have, I really just needed the whole set. And
Yeah, you have such a variety. So someone is asking if the mule will be up for adoption.
it depends who you're talking to. Me, no, my boyfriend probably would jump at that opportunity.
So let me check back with you a little later and just see how things are going. Yeah.
As of right now, she's a permanent resident.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
A nice little surprise. Well, thank you so much,
Exactly.
Mary, for joining me and for doing this awesome presentation. It's great to see the work you're doing just on so many levels in so many different directions, but it's really, really fantastic. So just
Thank
remember,
you.
everybody, you can find this and all the other webinars on the Surefoot Equine YouTube channel. And on Thursday, we're going to be talking to the woman from the Right Horse, Christine. My brain is just, I'm shot from Equine Affair. I can't remember anything right now. Hang on. But we're going to be talking more about welfare for horses. And that's what my point is, that this week is kind of like horse welfare. It's, Christy Schultz. And the Right Horse is now part of ASPCA. And they were telling me how in 2020, more horses had been, like, it was up, adoptions were up like 25%. So a lot more horses are finding good homes, which is really
That's
awesome.
amazing.
So I'm looking forward to talking to her. And again, Mary, just thank you so much. And this has been fantastic. So
Thank
everybody have a
you.
good day. Bye.
Bye.